Welcome, Krista Lindenthal, to the Balanced Beautiful Abundance Show.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. I remember meeting you at a women's retreat for yoga and entrepreneurs in December. And I know that our mutual mentor, Julie, was talking about you and saying, yeah, she's like a self-made multimillionaire. And I knew you were so young. And I was like, oh my God, how did she do it? How did she become a millionaire so young? So I am so excited for this interview. Let me tell my audience a little bit about you. So, Krista is a single mom of two young boys, age 4 and 5. She started her journey as an entrepreneur at the age of 18. She turned her cleaning business Up to Par Cleaning into a multi-million-dollar company. She recently hosted the Unstoppable Female Entrepreneur Summit, which I was so honored and appreciative to be one of the guests. And she interviewed leaders, spiritual entrepreneurs, authors, life coaches, and lifestyle coaches. So you are really in this entrepreneurial game, personal growth. You're so successful. So I'm so excited to find out some more information. First of all, let's talk about you starting your company at age 18. What gave you the idea to start a cleaning company?
Well, it started out, I have always, I was raised by a mom who was interested in health and the environment and cleanliness. And my dad was is a clean freak fanatic, values the cleanliness. And, I was raised with using like Monavie and health juices. And we always had a Kangen water machine and Filter Queen vacuum, and everything was just like, even though I lived in very humble beginnings with my family, I mean, we weren't like super rich or anything, but it was the value of everything that we were around, that we breathed, it took into our bodies. Everything was 100%. And, we had our own garden and everything. So it started out with that. And then as you go through this period of time when you're going through high school and you're like, what am I going to do when I graduate? And, I put my eyes on, I wanted to go to Bastyr University in Seattle and become a naturopathic doctor. And then during some shifts in my family life, at 16 years old, it ended up that my college fund got spent on credit card debt between my family. And I was like, you know what am I going to do? And I started to apply for jobs. It just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. I felt like I was almost denying myself of something. And I knew that right off the get-go. I think that was when I was like 17. And I mean, I applied at Ross and Bed Bath & Beyond, all my favorite stores. Wow. So I ended up, thinking to myself, what could I do right out of the gate it's a skill that I know. And I was like, well, it's either going to be landscaping or cleaning. And, I just ended up sitting in my bedroom and writing a business plan. It was just a basic business plan. It was like, okay, if I get this many clients at this many dollars an hour, and I make a goal to acquire one new client a week, if I'm looking 6 months, a year out, this is where I'm going to be. And, it just started, it was just this, I look at it and it was almost just like, it was just God, like landing in my lap and just being supported, and, everything works for me. It turns out my naturopathic doctor was birthed by John Bastyr of Bastyr University. So what a crazy, turnaround. So
what do you mean birth? That was her father or mother or?
So my naturopathic doctor is John Briggs, and he was birthed by John Bastyr, the founder of Bastyr University. And so that
what do you mean birthed?
Birth, like when his mom gave birth,
yeah,
John was the one who was handling the birth.
Oh, so he was the doctor that pulled the baby out.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I know that could sound weird. But it just, I've always been fascinated with health and wellness. So my cleaning business is green cleaning products based around high quality vacuums and, just with the environment in mind. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. So you're 18, you're sitting in your bed writing a business plan.
I was actually 17 writing it because I started my LLC It was actually technically the 19th of August. My birthday is August 15th. And so it was just literally like as fast as I could after I turned 18, I got on it. I mean, I had it ready to go on my birthday, but it just took me a couple days to make it happen.
So you had $1,000 to invest.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you even get the $1,000?
Well, my grandparents have this thing that they do for all of their grandkids. They give $500 for, I think, marriages. So when you get married, you get $500 or $1,000. But the one that impacted me was whenever a grandchild graduated, they always gave $500. And so I only had $400 of my own money, like birthday money and all of that stuff. And I was actually spending money at that time. So I was actually using up that money. And then when they gave me 500 each, I had 1,000. And I had 1,400. Then my sister got married and I went to Idaho for her wedding and everything. And I spent the 400. So I had $1,000 left.
Wow. So from having $1,000 in your bed, writing a business plan, how long, I know you have created 3 million in revenue in your company. How long did that take? How many years was that journey?
It's been, well, I've been in business 9 years. So it took me 9 years, but it's been literally exponential because it was like the first 4 months I made 11,000, which really looking at it, it's actually pretty, I look at that and I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah. Especially for an 18-year-old.
Yeah. But it didn't that felt like my soul said that wasn't enough, but when you look back at it, you're like, to be that successful right out of the gate, I get to acknowledge myself for that,
Yeah.
I don't think I've stopped and looked at that. And then it was 36,000, 75,000, and then we went to 150. So pretty much every year it's been triple or double.
Wow.
And then, it was like 285, and then we did 450, and then we did 690, and then it just like kept growing.
So how many people work for you now?
Right now I have 15. 15. Normally we're, before COVID, we were at 20.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So what was your biggest strategy that helps you manage being a single mom? Because I know you have a 4 and a 5-year-old. You're growing your business. You've just taken on, this summit and going more into your passion of being an entrepreneur and a leader in transformational growth. How do you manage your time with the 2 young kids at home, being a single mom?
That's a good question. There's a lot of strategies. So let me think about this. I'm just going to be natural and real. I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is letting some things bleed.
Yeah.
Perfectionism and control. They are not your friends when you are wanting to step into the next level.
Yes.
Because number one, you're going to make mistakes, and how you handle those mistakes are going to be big. You're going to lose your cool with your kids. You're going to have employees who quit on you. You're going to have situations that happen that feel less than ideal. And so being grateful for every thing that seems flawed or frustrating or whatever, that's the blessing is in the breakdown. It is such a powerful thing to remember. Be thankful for the breakdown. So be thankful for the imperfection in yourself, be thankful for the imperfection in others, and just know that you're all on the journey together. I think, when you hire someone, you're like, oh, if I hire this person, they're going to fix this problem for me and it's going to be smooth sailing from here. But it's all about personal development. So just be open to that. The personal development is going to be with that person, but also with yourself. So that's a strategy that I use, is just when I step into perfectionism. I was raised by a perfectionist. When you step into it, just being compassionate, speaking of my dad, he comes to my mind. He's become beautifully okay with being imperfect, and as he goes through life, and I just love that about it. So strategy is that. Do you want me to keep going, share more?
I love that, because I'm a recovering perfectionist too. And I like to tell myself that I'm striving for imperfection. Mm-hmm. And if I strive for imperfection, that's something that I can reach every day. Because like you said, the breakthrough comes from the breakdown, the blessings in the mess. And I used to think that I had to be perfect for other people to like me and to like myself, but I realized that people love you for your imperfections because that makes you real and vulnerable and they can relate. Like nobody wants to be around someone who's just perfect because they don't connect with that, because nobody's perfect, right? We're all human and we all have our own, vulnerabilities and failures and do goofy weird things. And I think your compassion when you're hiring people is also really admirable, because when you hire someone, you're like, I'm paying you to do this. And when they don't do it and you're paying them, it's really easy to get angry and annoyed because you're like, this is what I paid you for. So I think that's really beautiful that you're extending your compassion toward your employees as well as yourself.
Yeah, it's been a big one. I mean, I must have been meant to have the lesson in that. I've had some bad, like quote unquote bad hires, and within 2 months they cost me 40 grand. They put people into overtime.
40 grand in 2 months from bad hires? What did they do? Steal the vacuums?
No. One of them, she was chronically late, and then her teammates would, stay and wait for her for 30 minutes, and then she'd say she's coming every another 30 minutes, and it was just chronic. But it was really a reflection of myself. I have been a chronically late person. And so when you look at things and you're curious, you're like, oh, why is this showing up? Well, she's me. Because the reason why I couldn't discipline her was because I couldn't discipline myself.
Oh, I love that, because everything's a mirror, right? If something's showing up in your life, it's like reflect back, or you can look at the hand pointing. Like if there's one finger pointing at someone else, there's three pointing back at you. So having the gift, actually it's a humility to look at yourself. Like, where am I not showing up? Where am I being late? Where am I wasting somebody's time and money? That's such a gift to be able to look at yourself and shift. And I like to say you attract who you are, not who you want. So as you work on yourself, you get to attract better employees.
Yeah, so true. And literally nail on the head on the nail, hammer, whatever.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
The nail on the head. It's so true, because I found that I have more success as I go, and the more humble I am. I mean, there's the verse in the Bible says pride comes before a fall. And I've actually asked for 100. I asked God, I said, I prayed, and I was like, I felt my head getting bigger. This was 3.5, 4 years ago. I won the public utility district contract, and it was $10,000 a month at the time. That was huge to me. And I prayed, I asked God, I said, I feel like my pride is getting big. Either how I get to learn my lesson. I said, take this from me if that's the lesson. And he did. And I learned a big lesson, because I became, as an employer and as a person, I became so much about money that I just couldn't see humans. It was just really weird. And I just knew it was, so the father of my children and I broke up. At the same time, I lost 10,000 in revenue, which was for me 2,000 to 3,000 in take home pay. And so I went back down to 1,200 a month.
Wow.
And I rebuilt the business. In 4 months, we were doubled.
Wow.
From what we were with that contract, and phenomenal results. But it was me. I just have come even so much further from that point, but just, it is really about humility, because whenever you hire someone, they're going to have their strengths and they're going to have their weaknesses. And you can never get an absolutely perfect employee unless you learn, it's not about them being a perfect employee unless you learn how to really put them in a thriving place, but in a place that stretches them, for them to feel like they're growing how they want. That's the key. Because if you're stretching them, they're not going to be enrolled in their stretch. So, say that someone's really great at customer service, but they want to learn, they want to grow in strategy, put them in a sales role where they're learning how to grow in that area. So it's about partnerships. And whenever, like I learned this recently, that really healthy relationships are when there are negotiations. I know that seems basic, but I've often been, you know, a controller and a pusher. And
Yeah.
so when you push a change on someone in business or in relationships of any kind, even with your kids, it still doesn't go well with your kids. Speaking of strategies with kids, don't push or control.
Yes.
You get to negotiate. That's when it's mutual.
Yeah. People want to think that it's their idea and they don't want to feel like pushed or manipulated. So I think that's an art of being a great business owner and leader, or great negotiator, even great in relationships. It's about creating win-wins.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when I find myself controlling my children or the agenda of the night, I'm actually robbing my children. I'm robbing them of an opportunity to negotiate with me.
I can
Because
only imagine what negotiators your kids are going to grow up to be with you as a mom.
thank you. Yeah, it's like, hey, can we go to the park? If I clean my room, can we go to the park? And I'm like, no. Well, guess what? He's negotiated with me. You know, I could say, hey, we can go to the park and clean your room, and then I need help with this, and then let's go. And then
Yeah.
he feels like he's winning because his
Yeah.
idea was valid.
It's funny. I have a friend who's a stepmom, and every time I heard her on the phone, she was in negotiation, and I don't have any kids. So I was like, is being a parent being in a constant state of negotiation? It's like, if you do this and that, then we can do this. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's definitely one way to parent. Other parents are like, it's my way or the highway. And then other parents are like, just figure it out, which is kind of how mine were. They're just like, do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different styles, but I love that you're teaching your kids how to negotiate. So what would you tell young entrepreneurs about going to college? Is it necessary? Do you have regrets about not going to college? Do you want to go back one day? Like, what are your feelings about going to college right now?
It's a good question. I don't regret not going to college. I think I've made more money than I could have made and be debt free.
Mm-hmm.
This year I have invested 65,000 into my education because,
Right.
and I don't feel like I feel like it's not like I'm catching up for lost time. It's that I'm like, it's my time now.
Right.
And so, it's just been an all in year. So, but I wouldn't, you know, I feel like there is a system of going to college and getting into debt to unlock a deeper value. Because that's, if you're going to be a doctor, you have to, there's no going to school for a year to be a doctor.
Right.
So there are pieces in place to unlock a higher, more valuable authority. And so it's not that I disagree with it. It's that I understand the concept of it's the price that you pay for having access to something. Mm-hmm. So when you, I look at my losses, like I can tell you I've had probably 3 of those $40,000 losses. And I took that, the way I thought about it when I was in the moment was I just went to school. Are you learning the lesson or are you not? What
Right.
do you extract from this experience? What is this teaching you? Are you getting your education right now because you just paid it? Right. So I took it very seriously, but I actually I literally had abundant gratitude towards that person because I sourced them and they were a mirror of me. And I knew that, I know that I still have like 10 lessons to learn from that.
Yeah.
You know, and I can literally take that one lesson and make more money. That happened to me.
You thought of your college education as business failures because those business failures cost you money and gave you lessons, just like a college education cost you money and gave you lessons. They're just different types of lessons. You know, one is more abstract and one is more practical.
Yeah.
So the 65,000 that you invested this year in education, was that personal growth and transformation, or was that into a college fund that you're going to use later?
It was in the personal development. One, gaining my life coach certification was one of them. It was my first step this year. And then I joined a business. I have a business mentor, which was 15,000. I have a parent coach, which was 10,000. And then I hired a perfect health mastery coach, and it is 15,000. So it's like focusing on my health, my leadership, my certification, my business strategy, and my home life. So it's like I've hired a coach for pretty much every area of my life, and then I've been going through leadership too. So that I haven't shared that with you. It's maybe not a part of this interview, but it's just
leadership, for those listening, is a personal growth and development training that both Krista and I have gone through.
Yeah, I healed my sexual trauma, and I healed my some deep relationships through that process. And I'm just so thankful because you heal thyself.
Right.
And I'm healed, so I'm so happy.
Well, I'm so happy that you got that transformation. And one of the things I love about that training, you guys can email me if you have any questions, is you do get to go back through the trauma of your life. And even if you think you healed it, there's a lot of trauma that's still in your soul and in your mind and in your psyche that needs to be reprocessed and let go. And that training is invaluable for that. So anybody who's interested, definitely email me. Mm-hmm. So I love that you hire a coach for all these different things, because so many people are trying to figure out life on their own, and they can have help. They can have support in everything, from your parenting to your health, to your business, to your personal growth, to your spirituality. And I think it's so important to have guidance and to have a mentor. Mm-hmm. And I love the saying, find out from somebody who has what you want, because if you do what they did, you can get what they got. And it doesn't have to be hard. If you find someone who has the health or the relationship you want, they can show you how to do it because they did it. And that's one of the reasons why I love being a coach, because I love sharing with people what I figured out. They don't have to go through all the trials and traumas and tribulations and falling down and getting their knees scraped. It's like, let me save you so much time and money, and I'll just show you how to do it. So I think it's great that you've been investing your money in hiring coaches. So I'm hearing that you don't have a desire to go back and get that college degree. You don't feel it necessary.
Well, I've thought about, okay, if I go back to going to school to be a naturopathic doctor, I feel like I'm grateful that I haven't, because I feel like a lot of being a doctor is very regulated. And there's just a lot of bars to jump through. And I think that there's ways that we can access parts of that knowledge and apply it to our lives to transform our health. And I'm finding that a lot of this transformation couldn't be accessed with supplements and with naturopathic remedies as nearly as much as the energetics and the leadership parts. And like this trauma and the pain is so like rooted on a like psychocellular level. It's a matter of permission, of actually what you give permission to your cells to vibrate at. And so, like there's definitely a place for it, but if I definitely do have a desire to keep myself open to going to massage school or becoming a doctor, but I just feel like I may get to hold that. Like doctor means teacher.
Yeah.
Doctor is a healer. So I definitely know I've accessed that frequency of like what I get to be. But sometimes it just shows up in a different way and then shift. So I'm just open. And I definitely know that I'm kind of clairvoyant. So I'm able to see and feel and experience like what's actually going on in the body. It's just such a deep passion for me.
That's beautiful. And I love that you're not putting your pressure on yourself to go to college, because that's a societal norm. And I'm very grateful that I went to college. I went to Princeton University. It was awesome. But you are achieving massive results in the world, not just financially, but in your personal growth and in your mommy, being a great mom. And it doesn't have anything to do to with college. So I like that you're breaking the paradigm of you have to go to college to be considered a success, because some of the most successful entrepreneurs like yourself did not go to college. So, what are some tips that you can give our listeners about time management? I know you're doing a lot of different things and you have so many different interests and goals and passions, and you're a mom and you have your cleaning business, and now you're a certified life coach, and you just finished this huge summit where you interviewed 20 women. So what are some great hacks about time management?
Well, the one that's been the hardest, but that's been the most paramount, is a morning ritual. And I found that my morning ritual best supports me when I'm really just allowing myself 40 minutes of open time. Like no agenda, but it kind of has a structure, because the rest of my life is not like that. So being that creative space, being in your feminine, and just in your essence. So that, and then the other thing I've done, because I've been a chronically late person, I mean, I looked at myself at the end of my kids' school year. I was like, I am known as the mom who is always late. And I'm not taking that into my 27th year of life. Absolutely not. I was making all the excuses to have bad time management. And so I actually set a timer at 6:25, wake up the kids, 6:35, close on checkup. I literally set 10 to 15 minute window breaks where it's the next thing, and my kids are on time. And I just realized I was robbing myself by not having good time management. So my tips are definitely the morning ritual, and time blocking. As we all know, I think that time blocking is really powerful. I would also say, I feel like I'm saying it again, but just being on time to your commitments, because when you're not on time, no matter what it is, you're robbing not only yourself, you're robbing the person you're meeting with and the next person after that, because you're sourcing everything. So I just think time touches everything. We're all in a time spectrum.
Even though it's not real, it's created, right?
Yeah, it's an illusion.
It is an illusion. There is no time, but we're all following it. So to be considerate to each other, it's important that we keep it. So I apologize for being 15 minutes late to our interview this morning.
It's all good. So what are you wanting me to give more tips? I would love to.
So what time do you wake up? So you wake up, and at what time?
5:45.
And then you have your 40 minutes of unstructured time for your morning ritual before you wake up the kids. And then you set your alarm every 10 or 15 minutes, and this is when I get them dressed. This is when I get them breakfast. This is when I get them, to their first activity of the day. So what is your morning ritual? What are what are some of the things you do in those 40 minutes that you have to yourself?
One is just being with myself, being in the present moment, not thinking about what's coming in the day. That's like, for me,
do you drink tea or coffee and just be, or you just
coffee first thing? Get my coffee. I usually sit down on the dining room table. If I have a piece of paper and pen, if anything does come to my mind, I write it down. I've been doing a gratitude journal of 10 minutes of gratitude, which really just gets your mind on the positive. I am the type of person that's emotional and sensitive and crabby in the morning, and this has actually taken that away, and just made me be present. I feel all the feelings, whatever I'm feeling, I'm just with it. And I don't consciously, but this has put me in a place of just being ready to receive them, the kids in the morning. Cause that was my biggest thing. I put pressure on myself, and I was resentful, and I was they're going to wake up and I'm not going to be ready. And I was in the future, was future pacing. And I was thinking, it's going to suck. They're going to piss me off, blah, 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 you know, make me mad. Yeah. So being present, it's been my big lesson, because I am definitely a planner and a thinker, and I do things in advance, but that's just not the way to manifest. It's just not the way to create.
Yeah.
You don't create you do think about it. You do have a vision, have a dream for things in life, but you don't create in the future.
Right.
So its vision is in the future. Vision is vision's a cast. You're casting it. You're looking at it. Your present moment is where you create.
Okay, so you just give yourself some unstructured time. You write down any things that pop into your head, which we call downloads, right? You download that from the universal intelligence. Then you do 10 minutes of gratitude. And then what?
It's very close to my kids waking up.
Okay, and it's time to wake up the kids.
Yeah, so I might take a shower and get dressed. That's actually something I have been doing, because that really helps wake me up and get me in clean energy. And yeah.
You love clean. That's why you're a multi-millionaire house cleaning service owner. Clean is good. Mm-hmm. So cleanliness is next to godliness. Have you heard that quote?
Yeah.
So your kids are getting schooled on Zoom, or they're going to school?
They go to Montessori school in person.
Okay. So then you get them to school. Do you take them?
Yeah.
And then you start your day.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you manage the rest of your time during the day? Are you doing time blocking? Are you super structured? How does the rest of your day go, time management wise?
Well, right now and historically, I find that as CEO, as a business owner, the more you want to thrive, don't put yourself, this is just my advice. This is advice for what I've gotten up to. So take it if you want. But I found that the more that I can delegate and empower other people, the more that I get to be in flow and in creativity. And if I need to schedule something that's definitive, I do. And I hold that time. But I found that having about 3 scheduled things tops every day, and then being present for your team is super important, because if and I'm not saying I haven't been this way, but if you're constantly unavailable, energetically, your team feels it. And so no matter what, even if I went through leadership, so I was off the grid for 18 hours, I made sure that they felt me present. So I use Voxer. So I'm able to send quick voice memos. And at least they're hearing my voice and they're feeling my presence.
Right.
So as far as using my time during the day, I have coaching calls that I am receiving coaching, and I have time blocked for my physical workout before I pick up the kids. And so I use time blocking to, show up for things, to have time for myself. And I feel that's my best answer, I think.
Yeah, that's good. So I like that you talked about delegation, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they have to do everything themselves. And there's so much that you can delegate. And there's so much that you can delegate inexpensively because of Fiverr and Upwork and all these different apps. And it's kind of like letting go of control, and also letting go of fear of financial insecurity. I can't afford to pay all these people to do it. I have to do it myself. But then that makes you feel so burdened and overwhelmed and stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, recently I'm, working to access more money. I'm actually putting earnest money down on my first house today.
Congratulations.
I'm really
excited. And you're how old are you? 27?
Yeah.
Or 26?
27.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's on the lake, which is kind of the more luxury area of town.
Place to be. And what town are you?
Longview, Washington, Lake Sacagawea.
Is that near Seattle?
It's 2 hours south.
Cool. So you're buying the home on the lake today. Congratulations.
Earnest money down. And so, yeah, what was I saying? Lost my train of thought there for a second.
Oh, I don't know. We were talking about delegation and not controlling everything.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I get to source some more income and look at my expenses. I don't ever like to cinch anybody because I value them just as much as I value myself. So I was like, you know what? How about I ask my bookkeeper if she can train my new executive assistant to do the books for just a period of time? And that would save me 50%. And that was a stretch for me because I wanted to take it back. But I was like, this data entry, I can alleviate my bookkeeper and give it to back in house, which will save me 50%, which is like $800 a month. And it's just like, you get to be creative, you get to be flexible, you get to be okay with not being fixated on like the long term, like permanent. Everything has to be like I'm creating the future and everything I put in place has to be permanent. I think that that's like a thought of perfectionism because you don't want it to ever not be there.
Right.
So I'm always okay with things changing because sometimes the next change is better. Thank you for teaching me. So that's one of the things I'm doing to like source more income by shifting expenses. And I don't know if that's like answering a question you have, but I'm just thinking, we get to be creative.
Yeah.
We get to be okay with change. And
I love that because change is the only constant variable. So the goal in my teachings and in my book, How to Make Six Figures Working Part-Time, is to be happy. Health is the new wealth. Happy is the new rich. So the easier you adapt to change, the happier you're going to be. It's when you resist change and you fight it, that's when you get stuck and that's when you get anxious and depressed. And that brings me to my next question. So as a child, you struggled with a lot: anxiety, depression, ADHD, sexual trauma, abuse. And I acknowledge you for facing that and overcoming, even on a deeper level, those traumas in your recent personal development training leadership. So, how have these incredibly hard things actually helped you on your journey to becoming an unstoppable female entrepreneur, as you say in your summit?
Well, the first one is realizing that I actually sourced all those things and that they've actually been beautiful gifts. And, today is my parents' anniversary and they're not together anymore. But I am going to send them a special note because I want them to know that I'm thankful they came together and they created and just all of how they blessed me. And so, it's sometimes life seems confusing and it doesn't make sense. And you want to ask, why me? But things are working for us. And I think that more you surrender and you realize that, that everything is just divinely coming together for you, then it opens you up to not resent it, hate it, be angry at it. And when you realize that you source those experiences somehow, I haven't experienced, like, for me, the trauma was very deep. It impacted my life, but I know others have gone through, not to be comparative, what I mean is like they've gone through like rape or something really, really like seemed to me really extreme. And so I haven't been there. But I just know that the blessing, that the thing is, okay, so we are this divine light being, this beautiful creature, and circumstances can come in and we're meaning making machines. We try to make a meaning about it.
Right.
When you actually make it a meaning about who you are divinely as a person, that's when you're creating a mistruth. And so when you're able to essentially separate, like, to lovingly accept it, acknowledge the trauma, the pain, and say thank you, and just let it not be a part of you, but sit next to you. Potential of something that you partook in, but know that you're not that potential. Like, you are divine potential. And so when you're, you know, do you get what I'm saying? Like, okay, I am a
not your trauma. Like there's a part of us, our soul, you could call it, that can never be hurt, harmed, or endangered. That's from the divine.
Mhm.
And you're not your childhood trauma. And
So it's like those
detach
circles
from
that
it. Let it,
overlap.
yeah, let it sit next to you and learn from it and question it. And also realize that you sourced that because
Mhm.
there were God-given, divinely appointed lessons that you could have only learned through that specific type of disorder or trauma. That's a really empowered way to look at it, Krista. And that's why I say there are no victims, only volunteers.
Mhm.
And people get stuck in the victim mentality and it keeps them stuck in their life from
This
getting
is
what they
why.
want. So
This
there
is
are no victims. And it's about doing what you did. You went from victim to victor. And
Mhm.
you're, you know, it's not only that you're achieving millions of dollars in your business, it's that it's even more than that. You've overcome this pain that you were carrying around, that you made your life story, and you're detaching from it. And you're like, I'm so much more than this story. Like,
Mhm.
I am a beautiful, divine, fully actualized being. And it's just beautiful that you've been able to overcome that.
Mhm.
So, but sometimes, like some of the greatest people have the most painful childhoods because, in a negative way, they're negative drivers and they're fueled by that to like prove something to the world or prove something to themselves. So, do you think those negative drivers of having that childhood trauma actually catapulted you to success at such a young age in a way?
Definitely. Yeah, I moved out, lived with my grandparents when I was 16 for like 2 or 3 months, and which took strength because that meant like me separating from my family, but actually bonding closer with another, like my grandparents. And then, you know, I was motivated at 17 before I started my LLC, and 18 to be independent. I moved out literally a month after starting my business. It just, looking back, it just blows my mind. I moved out and I had already created, you know, I think it was like $1,200 of income a month. And I attracted blessings. I really did because I surrendered.
Yeah.
And um, I met a lady who, Dale Bartolome, she actually used to work at the pediatric clinic that I went to as a kid, but I attracted her as one of my first clients. I used to pet sit and house sit, and then I turned into her housekeeper, and she was a, you know, doctor. She was Dr. Dale, and she is Dr. Dale, and she, you know, would do treatments in her house with people, and she was in the high end. She worked with high end clients that could afford her services, and I reaped the benefits of that trust and integrity, and, you know, doing more business. And I met some of the most powerful of my mentors through her, and she's been a powerful mentor. So I would just say, like, you know, surrender.
That is
Surrender.
so, I love that. Surrender to win. And it's about going with the flow. And like you had this vision of you being a female entrepreneur at a young age and you moved to your grandma's house and you didn't know who, what, how, or why it would happen, but you
Mhm.
just kept doing the next indicated thing and surrendering. And then you met this doctor who introduced you to these clients, who introduced you to other clients. And it's
Mhm.
all about being in a state of surrender. And that's something that I need to be reminded of on a daily, almost hour by hour, minute by minute basis, because it's human nature to want to think we can control things, but
Mhm.
we can only control like what is in front of us to do. There's so many unknown variables that we just,
Mhm.
I mean, I personally make myself crazy trying to control. And as you said, future trip, it's just so much easier to be in surrender and it's a lot more fun. It
Mhm.
is just like get on the roller coaster and be like, woo, let's go. What's going to happen on this ride? And
You become
I,
an instant manifester too,
yeah,
because the present is in the present.
the present is in the present. And that's where the fun is. So they say if you're thinking about the past, you're in depression. If you're thinking about the future, you're in anxiety. And the present is the present. So that is a great point to end on. You're a present. Thank you so much for being here on the Balanced, Beautiful, Abundant show. And how do my listeners keep in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook at Krista Lindenthal. I'm currently Chris Lindenthal as like a a symbol of my changing and evolving. And then you can find me. I also have like a life coaching page that you can like, and no website yet, but you can also call me 360-957-8442 as well if you want to call or text me.
Wow, you're so generous. I can't believe you gave your cell phone out. That is just, you're honestly one of the busiest people I've ever interviewed, and you're the only one who's ever given out your cell phone. You're such a generous spirit. It's incredible. So is it too late to get in on the summit if people want to listen to those 20 unstoppable female speakers, including me?
No, it's never too late. Not too late until September. I think it's September 18th. So the URL is the unstoppable female entrepreneur, which is a long word, so don't misspell it, .com. And if you want to come in through, I think Rebecca, it would be speaker/Rebecca Whitman. That way I can know that it's coming through for her. But
so we'll drop that. Don't worry about that. We'll drop it in the show notes, but that's an incredible summit. So excited to be a part of it and to do future collaborations with you. So thanks again, everyone, for listening to the Balanced, Beautiful, Abundant show. We do not have sponsors, so we are counting on our wonderful listeners to share this podcast with their friends, to rate and review and get the word out there that you can be balanced, beautiful, abundant. Thank you so much, Krista, for being such a wonderful guest. And we will look forward to seeing you next week, listeners, for another amazing expert. Bye for now.